Could World War III start over an island that's smaller than many US states? Taiwan, a tiny piece of land that could reshape global power dynamics. How is it that an island of just 23 million people is holding two superpowers hostage? Welcome to the madness where China and the US are vying for control, not of a city, not of a country, but of the fate of the planet. And it directly affects you. But how? Let's get into it. So, let's break it down. Taiwan is not just a random island. It's the epicenter of a geopolitical battle with consequences so massive they could change the course of history. Imagine this, an island that holds not just economic and military power, but the potential to rewrite the global order. For China, it's a matter of national pride, a symbol of unity. For the US, it's a critical buffer, a piece of land they can't afford to lose. If Taiwan falls into China's hands, the US loses control of the Pacific. It's a game changer, and that's why the US will go to extreme lengths to prevent it. Starting with what makes Taiwan such a big deal for China, let's kick things off with some history. Taiwan's significance goes way beyond what you might think. For China, it's not just a piece of land. It's a reminder of their past humiliations. We're talking about the century of humiliation, when China was carved up by foreign powers. Taiwan was handed to Japan in 1895 after the First Sino-Japanese War, and that sting stayed with China for decades. Taiwan wasn't just taken from China, it was a blow to China's pride, an emblem of its weakness during a time when foreign powers were pushing them around. And that sense of injustice has lingered ever since. Fast forward to 1945, World War II ends, and Taiwan is returned to China after Japan's defeat. But the celebrations didn't last long. As China plunged into civil war, Taiwan became a sanctuary for the nationalist government under Chiang Kai-shek. What was once an island that symbolized China's weakness became the de facto separate entity, Taiwan, something that Beijing could not and would not accept. For China, Taiwan was not just a piece of real estate. It was the last wound in a long history of subjugation. It represents the final step in national reunification, a mission that has driven Chinese leaders for decades. The Communist Party views Taiwan's independence as a slap in the face, a direct challenge to its legitimacy, and a stark reminder of the country's suffering at the hands of foreign powers. Taiwan's freedom isn't just a political issue, it's a matter of national pride. If China allowed Taiwan to remain independent, it would feel like an admission of defeat in the face of a rising superpower. China's fixation on Taiwan is understandable, but beyond the historical and symbolic significance, Taiwan represents something even bigger for China today. A chance to project power and complete its vision of national unity. The US stands in China's way. China can't afford to let Taiwan slip further out of its grasp, especially as it continues to build itself up as a dominant global force. Taiwan is more than a territorial dispute. It's a battle over China's identity and global standing. If Taiwan is so crucial for China, you're probably wondering, what on earth does the US have to do with this tiny island? Well, it turns out the US has been in the game for a lot longer than you might think. So let's talk about the US involvement. How did Taiwan become the center of US-China rivalry? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. What role does the US play in this? Funny thing, at first the US wasn't that concerned about Taiwan. Back in the early Cold War years, Taiwan was just another pawn in the broader geopolitical struggle against communism. But then something huge happened in 1950, the Korean War. Suddenly, Taiwan wasn't just a random island. It was the last line of defense against the spread of communism in Asia. The US realized that Taiwan was critical to containing Chinese influence in the region. If China got a foothold in Taiwan, it would give them direct access to vital shipping routes and military zones. Taiwan was a perfect buffer between the West and China's growing ambitions. So, the US started ramping up its military presence in the region, including sending the 7th Fleet to patrol the Taiwan Strait. This was no longer just about Taiwan. It was about ensuring that China didn't have the power to disrupt the balance of power in Asia. The US realized that Taiwan was critical to containing Chinese influence in the region. If China got a foothold in Taiwan, It would give them direct access to vital shipping routes and military zones. Taiwan was a perfect buffer between the West and China's growing ambitions. So the US started ramping up its military presence in the region, including sending the 7th Fleet to patrol the Taiwan Strait. This was no longer just about Taiwan. It was about ensuring that China didn't have the power to disrupt the balance of power in Asia. In 1979, after establishing diplomatic relations with China, the US passed the Taiwan Relations Act, which sent a clear message: Taiwan was still under US protection. This move came despite the US recognizing China as the official government. But the law made it clear that America wasn't about to let go of Taiwan, because Taiwan wasn't just about politics. It was about maintaining power in the Pacific, an area where the US had a long history of dominance. But here's the twist. The US wasn't just interested in Taiwan because of communism. Over the years, Taiwan became more than just a strategic ally. It became a symbol of US power in the region. Taiwan represented everything the US wanted to preserve: control over vital trade routes, influence over military operations, and the continued projection of American power in Asia. Taiwan was, and still is, part of the US's larger strategy to prevent China from dominating the Pacific. Taiwan's location isn't just strategic, it's a gold mine. Taiwan is perfectly positioned at the crossroads of global maritime trade routes, making it essential for global commerce. The Taiwan Strait is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, connecting major economies in Asia with the rest of the globe. If China controls Taiwan, it essentially controls access to these vital shipping lanes. This is a huge problem for the US, which relies on the free movement of goods through these waters. But that's just the beginning. Taiwan is a key part of what's known as the First Island Chain, a series of islands that run from Japan to the Philippines. The First Island Chain is like a military fence, designed to contain China's military capabilities. If Taiwan falls into Chinese hands, this chain would be broken, allowing China to expand its military presence further into the Pacific, giving them free access to strategic waterways. Losing Taiwan would significantly undermine US military power in the region, something the US simply cannot afford. But Taiwan isn't just important because of geography. It's also crucial because of its economic power. Taiwan is home to the world's leading semiconductor manufacturer, TSMC, which produces chips for nearly every major tech company in the world. These chips power everything from military technology to smartphones, and the US and China both rely heavily on them. If China took control of Taiwan, they'd have access to this cutting-edge technology, dramatically shifting the global balance of power. Taiwan is sitting on the golden egg that both superpowers need to maintain their edge in the technological race. Now that we know Taiwan's strategic importance, let's answer the big question. Could China pull off an invasion? What are the real risks here? And is it even possible? Technically, yes, but the consequences would be monumental. The logistical challenges alone make it a risky endeavor. China would need to overcome Taiwan's defenses, navigate around potential US intervention, and deal with the overwhelming global fallout that would follow. Military success is far from guaranteed, and even if China were to take Taiwan, the cost would be astronomical, not just in terms of military resources, but in economic and political terms that could reshape the global order for decades. So Taiwan is not just a territorial dispute, it's the flashpoint of a high-stakes geopolitical rivalry that could change the world as we know it. For China, Taiwan represents the final step in its national reunification and global power. For the US, Taiwan is the linchpin that holds its influence in the Pacific and its ability to control global trade. Both sides know that losing Taiwan would have dire consequences. So, what happens next? Is Taiwan going to remain the prize that both superpowers fight over? Or will China finally tip the scales in its favor? Let us know in the comment section. Can the US win? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, the economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.